Welcome back to another episode of Yard Abroad.
Yard Abroad.
Yes. So I'm Lakeisha Marie.
I'm Zinga Makita.
And this is Dedo Azu.
Yes.
So she was on our last episode. So we were like, we asked questions online and we got so many questions from people. So this is about to be like a rapid fire where we're just going to shoot our answers. And I was like, why don't we just make this, the more the merrier. Yeah. So Dedo's joining us and we're just going to get straight into it. Yeah. ETT, right? Okay, so do you want to do the first question or should I go ahead?
You can do the first one.
Okay, ladies. So the topic, right?
Oh.
The topic is dating. And the concept / question is dating Caribbean men versus African men. Dedo, speak on it.
First of all, dating has been a bit...
Wait, dating where?
Dating in Ghana.
Uh-huh.
Dating in Ghana has been non-existent because of my business. Wait.
Okay.
Not that I don't want to date. I really do want to date. but having a business in Ghana is just so consuming that I hardly remember I'm single until something happens. I'm like, wait, why am I still single? I'm still single. But, and everybody's like, oh, are you looking? But I find that I'm not looking because I'm always looking at my work, and they're like, oh, you have a restaurant, you should be meeting very cute guys and stuff. Right. And I'm like, by the time I remember to look up at the person, they're out the door because I'm like, okay, did they get what they need? Did you do this? Did you do this? So it has been a challenge, and I always have to remind myself to go out for fun, or when I go to the grocery store, maybe look around. I might find like a little, something like that.
Snack.
Yeah, so it hasn't. But Caribbean men, Ghanaian men, I come from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So Toronto, there are a lot of Caribbean men and stuff.
Right.
And what I can say, what I can say is there's a bit of a difference. Caribbean men just tell you what it is.
Okay.
And you decide, that's
fine.
Then you decide what you want to do with the information, whether you want to go ahead and date or not.
Me have a wife,
That's your business. But in Ghana,
me have a wife and tree picnic, but I you me want.
Oh, exactly. No. That's true. That's true. But in Ghana, I don't feel like you're given the option a lot of times to choose.
The secrecy.
That's what I find.
They'll have a wife and 10 kids
and not say anything.
Yeah, but the difference, that's the main difference. I feel like, they tell you what it is, but sometimes it's just really attractive. Like, oh, okay, at least I know what I'm getting into.
Right.
You feel like you don't have any control, but you feel like you have the control. I can walk away because, I already know what the situation is. But really, when you're in.
Crying.
The whole time. Brace yourself, ladies.
Yeah, but that's what I appreciate. But in Ghana, men can be romantic.
Okay. Can be.
First of all, our video men are men, so we need to be a little nice.
Do you feel like it's a bit intimidating being that you have your own money, you have your own business to men? Do you think that plays a factor, or you never thought about that?
I've thought about it. When I didn't have a business, everybody says, oh, men these days like a woman who has their own stuff and they have their own business and blah, blah, blah. And then you go on, you have your business and you have money and everything. And then it's like, oh, well, men don't like women who have their own businesses. So which is it? So I just feel like, there are brave men out there who don't care if you have a business or not, if you're, but it's a bit of a problem, at least for me in Ghana, because I'm not finding anything worth my time.
The talent pool is a little low.
Yeah,
right?
it is. No, it really
I'll
is.
say that as well. So as an entrepreneur,
really
it's the same thing. Like, okay, Lakeisha, you've been here for 5, 6 years. What's up? How come you're not? And it's just like, well, because I'm doing the business, I need my headspace to be on point. I don't want to worry about if you're out here with Equia and Essie and Akosia, the other one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I want my headspace to be clear, and you need that focus. Mm-hmm. So I kind of just backed off from the whole dating thing. I mean, I've tried it, and it was interesting, but it's just like, people are just, the level of commitment to deception here, like, Look, first of all, I'll say this. It's all over the world, first of all. But we are talking about experience in Ghana, okay? The commitment to deception. Nah, man, it's a level. And I just like that I just...
It's too much to add to a business.
Yes.
It's
dealing
a bit
with
much.
that and then dealing with your business. Look.
Why can't people just be cool and...
honest?
Fresh. You know, and stale and not cool. Like, it's
just be fresh.
Yeah, it's.
Regarding the comparison, though, I will say this. I always say, my people might kill me, but if Nigerian men and Ghanaian men had a baby, they would be a Jamaican man.
Yeah, that's true.
Really?
They would be a Jamaican man.
Yeah.
So imagine when they talk
They're
about
all in
Yoruba
one.
demons, they talk
They're
about
all in
like
one.
the deception.
All in one.
But they love you and they're romantic and they, you know what I mean? Jamaicans are good.
They'll love you
lovers.
and like 5 others. They love everybody.
Yeah.
Their threshold and capacity is amazing, like none other. But what I like is, what I appreciate, I think African men will marry, right? Compared to Caribbean men. They'll marry faster. They'll still cheat on you. But, but they will marry. And I feel like Caribbean men, like that's not really a norm.
Yeah, let's just
breed. It happens, but it's not a norm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The baby mother, baby father culture is more normal.
That's true.
Unfortunately.
But that's a problem.
We're just gonna put some coconut oil on this.
Right.
And moving
on.
Yes.
Okay, so our next question was, is it possible to move here without family ties, without having a family here in Ghana?
Yeah. Is it possible to move here? First of all, yes, it is possible. I am a living testament. Is it easy?
No.
And I think people always ask me why Ghana and all these other things. And I tell them about being inspired and seeing wealthy people who are of color, you know, coming from Jamaica and the States. You know, but I always say I was naive.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the people who were deemed quote unquote Darabis that I was hanging out with, you know, seeing the comfort, I didn't know that was long money, or that the fact that they come from generation, you know, so when they come here, the ease is so, you know, they just ease right into it. So I was like, you know, I'm coming back to Ghana.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
And then I learned quick. You know what I mean? Not to say like, oh, we're so different, but the idea is like, coming here without family and not having ties, you know, you're building from scratch. You're using your savings. You're creating something from scratch. And, you know, when you go out there, you do these events and you show up. When you come home, it's you.
Ooh. You see, I came home to my family. And if I didn't have family in Ghana, like my parents and stuff, because I moved in with them, I don't think I would have been as successful, because I'd have to find a job so I could make my rent. And that will take me off course a bit, because you're working 9 to 5, where you find the time to be creative and thinking entrepreneurial thoughts, you know. So I can't imagine how you've done it. Because, you know, sometimes I come home and they're like, oh, how was it today? And I'm like, oh, boy, today was crazy. Or they're like, hey, we did this. Yeah, but to be and not be dating,
it's tough.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, but to answer the question, it is possible, people, but you just have to be super resilient about it. And of course, your FaceTimes, your WhatsApp video, you know, connecting with your family, and then creating some form of a tribe here. That's another story.
That's true.
You know, but having your friends, people who are literally supportive of you, you know, your energy, your spirit will tell you what and who should be around you, and then you gravitate towards them and, you know, tap into that.
But that requires you paying attention, because not everybody, I've had to learn the hard way.
We
in
all
the last
have.
few
All of us,
years.
yes.
All
because,
have.
you know, people befriend you and you're thinking, oh, you know, there's a cool person who wants to be, but you don't know what they want from you, their intent. So that is another story, like you said, because, you know, there've been a lot of disappointments, there've been a lot of like trifling things happening.
Talking
all
shit.
kinds.
A lot of trifling
You know,
stuff.
but it's part of it. It's part of it. But know who's for you and roll with them. Know who's not for you and just back off. You know,
And
but
I think for real, if I'm transparent about that one, if I can give people a hack, right? Because it has taken me years to be comfortable with being okay with not necessarily having that stereotypical tribe that people so easily tell you to find, you know, especially coming back here as a Jamaican-American. You're not Ashanti, you're not Ewe, you're not, you know, so when it comes time to family lunches and weddings, and you'll start to see that there's a difference.
Really?
Yeah, there's a difference. And
That's
then
so interesting.
you don't necessarily, and the people who you like interact with, nobody's properly thinking about you in that way.
That's true.
They think you're fine, and then you are engaged with socially, but it's never like in a very intimate way.
Yeah.
So when you realize that, and obviously I'm speaking from my experience, when you realize that, it does feel a little isolating. So it took me some time to be okay with, you know, literally my solitude and being fine with myself and understanding myself enough to attract the right people.
Wow.
Yes, and I will say what helped me was it's really spirituality.
Yeah.
It's not just a physical thing, I'm going to move here, I'm going to find my rent, I'm going to find my apartment, but really being grounded in a way and knowing that what is for you is truly for you.
Yeah.
You know, and the hack around that is not trying to we talk about unlearn, but don't forget that you've already been raised.
Yeah.
Right.
When you come here, stick to your principles.
Right.
Yeah, because
Don't compromise. Because people come here and compromise
You're right.
in the name of business, in the name of fitting in the name of relationships. Don't compromise. And it took me some time, and I'm being honest, it took me some time to learn that. But once I got it, and obviously, you know, we're still getting it.
Yeah.
Once I got it, it's like there's this peace and this level of focus that you attain that will help you, and you'll start to realize the fruit of it.
So I was saying that it's really interesting that you touched on that, because I can tell you that I have never really paid attention to the fact that some of my friends may be alone, because it's lonely out here, and it's part of the reason why leaving Canada wasn't so horrible for me, because I felt like I didn't, you know, when I met my people, I had only a couple of months to leave the country. So I was like, oh, if I had met you guys a year ago, I probably wouldn't have left. But I just felt alone a lot of the times. You know, the Caribbean people that I worked with, they would meet, go have their nails done, you know, the colors in the hair and all of that.
You wanted some color too?
Yeah, I did. I was like, but, you know, we're on this job together. How come? And then, you know, they're speaking about it and stuff. And I'm like, I need to feel like I belong. You know, when they go out, they're like, oh, this weekend we went to this party and stuff.
And they didn't tell you.
No. But at work would be, you know, we'll go out to lunch together and stuff. So I was like, I'm never really going to be allowed inside of the family. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But it's really important, because without my family, I don't know how I would have survived in Ghana. Right. Because at the end of the day, when I go home, it's like, oh, so what happened today and stuff.
You
but
have
to think
someone.
that, to think that people here who have, you know, and I have lived here most of my life before I had left. So it must be it can be very lonely if you're not careful.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And
I think from my perspective, as coming to Ghana for a man.
Yeah.
and being married, I feel like that initial part, like you do feel like, okay, even though you have your man or husband or whatever, that's kind of like his family. I don't speak the language. I feel pressure, like, oh, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to say the wrong things. I'm trying to learn the culture. Still, after being here 10 years, I really still feel like I'm still learning. Right. But I feel like that whole finding your tribe thing, even when you're married to a Ghanaian, can be tricky. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be tricky because you have the aunties like,
that auntie vibe.
It's kind of crazy. I can't imagine what it feels like.
So you're like, I don't know. It's kind of like you're nervous. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to like.
But at the same time, you got to live your life.
At the same time, you have to live your life and be yourself. And I think it got much easier for me once I started having my own children and just going through that phase of sifting through
what
who's
works
real
and
who's not,
Yes.
and what works, and just learning about the culture itself.
Right.
Gives you some type of understanding of maybe it's not how I think it
Right.
is, or maybe they're really not trying to offend me. This is just how it is here.
Right. Yeah. And I will say literally January 2020 is when I like got a clue about myself in reference to being properly grounded. I was in a space for a very long time where I did feel isolated. I did feel alone. And what happened was, this is a vulnerable share, guys.
Let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
Let's do it.
This is like my business.
Your business, girl.
But you know what? I'll say this. I didn't know until this year. First of all, my yoga teacher, shout out to Darling, Yoga Studios, Namaste Yoga. We were talking about this and she was like, and I was open because I was like tired of myself. I was tired of this experience. And I literally came into a group of women during one of my yoga sessions and I talked about it. Like, I'm tired of going from I'm tired of being in survival mode. Yeah. Whether it be relationship-wise, business-wise. This year I'm thriving. I'm tired of being in survival mode. How do I come out of it? You know, and I gave some explanation of what I meant by survival mode. And Darlene said, sometimes seasons come to teach you something. What has this season come to teach you? And I literally prayed and meditated about that. Long story short, because you know I'm long-winded. Y'all, this is what I found out. I had created, or I developed an insecurity, not about myself because I'm Jamaican and we're confident, okay? Not about myself, but about my situation. Oh, I'm alone. I don't have real people around me. People are fake. The commitment to deception is real. You know, so you're telling yourself these things over and over. What's happening is you're creating a culture inside. So this is what you're saying to yourself. And when you say these things, you believe them. And when you believe them, you attract them even more.
That's right.
Literally 2020, January 2020, it like... I became aware of it. And I literally had to write down what the lies or the agreements that I had made with myself and then figure out what the truth is.
Right.
Oh, I'm alone. Are you really alone?
Right.
Yeah.
Lakeisha, you're Christian. God is always with you. You know, whatever your belief is, you got to fire back at that thing because I think it's very easy for us, once we're triggered, we create this momentum of belief and then you don't even realize it, that you're attracting the same thing that you don't want.
That's true.
Right?
But you know what? My experience is opposite yours. I've had to, like in 2019, I closed myself up. I was very exposed. You know, Tiba I didn't have an office. So I was exposed to the world, literally. I would sit out and people would come to me. People would become friends with me. I wouldn't be friends with people. Everybody thought they were friends with me.
Listen,
so
that's a real thing.
Hello.
As a book. I was open as a book, and I was receiving all this stuff. Some positive, some negative. It was just too much. But it got to a point where I had to shut myself up and say, I need to protect myself because not everybody who comes to be friends with me is a friend of mine.
Right, that I've chosen.
Or that I didn't choose my friends.
Right.
My friends came to me. So, you know, when I decided to close myself up, I said, I'm not going to allow myself to be so open anymore. And when I mean open, not even like I was literally open, sitting out there. So if Makita comes in every day, Makita will get me every day. And naturally, friendships develop that way. But I don't really get a choice in who I feel is good for me mentally, you know, inspirationally, all kinds of stuff. So it was just, for me, it was too much. And so when Tiba stopped, I was happy that I had to stay indoors and stay with myself because I realized that I had actually missed myself.
Right.
You know, so every time that someone comes in and I pretend that, I'm not the owner, it makes me feel really good. And I do that sometimes because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. I don't want people sitting in front of me
It's
all
like
the
you're
time.
a therapist, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then they create friendships with me. And I'm not perfect, just like nobody is perfect. But I would like to choose my friends. I don't want I don't want people coming to me enough time so that it feels like, oh, well, we're friends. No, we're not. we just happen to spend every day together because
Dedo is my good friend.
And I do have some really good friends that I really, really love, who love me back. But there are also friends who I feel are in my life because of, for whatever reason, but which doesn't serve me as a person. So I just prefer myself being close now, and then I get to choose. I hang out with you, I feel like, something about her, I leave it alone. I feel like, Charlie, she's got good vibes, I'll give you a call. And so I can nurture my own friendships, you know, not have friendships thrown. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, it makes total
I know
sense.
exactly what
People
you're talking
throw
about.
their friendships at you, and you're like, oh, well.
And when you're
And you
not
feel
aware,
bad when you like,
when you have your boundaries and you choose.
So now it's a little different. Yeah, I mean, that's a little different. Now it's like, oh, if I like your vibes and I feel like, oh, we should hang out, let's hang out. But if I don't feel like if you come the next day, you're necessarily going to see me sitting out there to sit in front of me, you know? So it's this has been good.
Right.
You know, so
I like that. It sounds like we have developed more of a command on our internal space. And on our space, how we let people in and how we even talk to ourselves. Our experiences are the opposite, but I guess if there was to be a nugget or a hack for people listening, you know, it's about being aware of what you're telling yourself or the agreements you make with yourself, and also being aware of how you choose and who's choosing you. And is that whoever choose you, is that your choice? And does it serve you?
And do you have to choose them back?
And do you have to choose them back? And you don't, right?
Yeah.
So thank God for awareness, I would just say.
And
thank God
knowing
for
yourself,
awareness. And it took
knowing
years.
who you are. Yeah.
January 2020. That's a hack. That's a hack for people listening.
What is our next question?
Let's go into the next question so we could wrap this up. My password is just
Cost of living.
okay. So this varies. Cost
Rent.
of living. Whoo, child. First of all, I'll say this. If you guys don't know, there is a financial culture in Ghana which is very cash intensive. This is not a space that operates on credit.
No.
For my fellow Americans. Not that all Americans operate that way, but some people think that, I can pay monthly. Nah.
Right. Nope.
So like the norm is to pay, 1 year up front, sometimes 2. There are some places that will let you do monthly. It is getting better compared to like 5 years ago. So cost of living, wow.
It depends on where you want to live.
It
if you're trying to move to Ghana,
on your
live
level.
In Cantonment.
Yes.
Which is my favorite area.
I love Cantonment. That was one of my first apartments when I came back, and we paid out the nose.
How much? Okay, so for example, how much did you pay for an apartment
so
in Cantonment?
we were in I had a roommate. We had a 2-bedroom apartment at the residence, and that, I think at first she was trying to charge us almost $3,000 a month, and then we got it down to about $2,000.
She said dollars, guys.
Not CDs. Right. So that was at first, and that's when I didn't know. But what I will tell you guys is you don't have to come and spend this expensive. You don't have to do that. You can literally find a nice space for $500-$600 a month. 2-bedroom. You can find a roommate. You can split it. You can find a $600-$700 a month apartment. Rent one part of the room out. Get a roommate. There are different ways to do it. You don't necessarily have to go that expensive route. But this cost of living thing is about your standard, what you like. Because some people coming from the West, they can't deal with no power, no generator.
Right?
So, you know. So I would say, for me, I don't want to deal with no power, no generator. I want all my utilities, okay? Right. I don't care where I'm at.
Cost you?
Yeah, it's going to cost you. But like my little apartment, my little 2-bedroom apartment, I pay, now it's almost $600, but I would say like $550.
That's
dollars.
Decent.
Dollars.
Okay.
That's
and
really
it's
decent.
actually in CDs. But
What?
when I do the conversion, it's like $550.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
2-bedroom, and the space is separated, and I Airbnb out the back. I've had roommates. Sometimes I don't have a roommate. Right now, I'm Airbnb-ing. During year of return, I Airbnb out the
Ghana's
wazoo.
not cheap.
And it's
No,
right.
it's not cheap
Ghana's
at all.
actually really expensive.
Can you survive in Ghana without a car?
You can survive, but you're going to be paying.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
probably makes sense to get a
buy
car.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But what about like having a family? Like that's totally different. This is, you're single,
Well, having a family is different because, again, I came here for my boo, and my boo took care of me. So,
and that's a reality.
Yeah.
Ladies, if you find them, keep them. Okay. There are some benefits.
So my experience is different. So don't watch me, please.
But
You'll
what
go
I would
home.
say is a lot of people come to the restaurant and they say, "Well, this is Africa. This is New York prices." And I'm like, "Well, I know you came to Ghana thinking that you were going to buy things for 3 cents, but newsflash, Ghana is expensive. Ghana's really expensive. So don't come in thinking that you're going to eat for $2 a day, but you want to eat like burgers
is
and
Africa.
Yeah, this
Go to
Ghana's
bistro, you'll
expensive.
find out.
Yeah,
Yes,
Ghana's expensive.
Yeah.
Even when you go to the
Generally.
grocery store, like a
Yeah.
box of cereal is what, like
70
right.
70
50, 70
like
Ghana
$13,
CDs.
$13.
13 exactly.
$14.
Then there are some people who say, "Oh, but you can buy 2 CD jollof." Let me tell you something. If you
You'll be
want to
buying a
risk
lot
your
of-
health,
You'll be buying a lot of Imodium.
yes, you
need to know
buying a
Imodium
lot
if
of
you're moving to
medicine
Ghana.
and paying hospital bills because you're always sick.
Yeah,
There's a trade-off.
but it's not.
Oh, yeah.
just-
And also, people don't talk about healthcare
Ooh.
when they move here. I don't think people think about that. You're paying cash for any type of medical
Right.
situation.
Right.
anything you buy a house,
Yeah.
you're paying cash.
Yeah.
Right.
So cash is heavy here, and it's not cheap. Just remember that, and stop making references to. Oh, this is Africa.
Right.
So?
And so that is why it's
In New
expensive.
York, I'll get breakfast for $3, and then I look like, really?
This ain't New York.
Okay. Yeah, this
Right.
is Accra.
Economies of
Yeah.
scale. Hello.
It's not
We
cheap.
didn't get through all of the questions,
Okay.
but this was really good.
Yes, it
and
For the most part, we'll always be here, and we're going to we'll continue answering questions. But we are up for this episode. I
thank
think
you so
it's
much,
been
Dado.
great.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sipping on your tonic
Gin and
with
tonic.
gin and tonic with
Yeah.
cucumber.
And it
We
didn't
like
cost $3, guys.
No, it didn't. It's a lot more than that.
Right.
Yeah, but overall, it's good to be back because one thing people are like, "Oh, how do you feel?" Since I've been here, I've been feeling alive for the last 10 years. I feel like I'm making new memories. When I lived in
Amazing.
Canada, I didn't make new memories. It was the same thing, going to work the same day. But Ghana is like I feel like I've gotten smart and I've gotten dumb at the same time. Yeah. Because I had to figure so many things out. So my mind is always firing. I'm like, okay, how do you do this? How do you do this? And I'm making a lot of memories with a lot of people and stuff, and there's movement. Everything is moving, good or bad, it's moving.
Right.
So I honestly prefer this. If you asked me to choose this place again, I would choose it. And I can't imagine myself being anywhere else at the moment.
Me
Like,
too.
Yeah.
Same here,
So it's
honestly.
great. We'll bitch about it, about Ghana and all of that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this is home.
Right.
It's
And we're creating legacies. We're
Yeah.
creating like the realities we want, and I think that's power, And for me, like if I was in America, could I really jump up and say, "Oh, I'm doing a PR agency, and I'm doing a Jamaican restaurant, and I'm doing a podcast"? I mean, you probably could, but it would
Right.
take you so much
Yeah.
more. But to be able to add to this space and grow it's not easy.
Grow it,
You
yeah.
know, I think it's
But there are a lot of
beautiful.
loopholes because one time I said I wanted to vend at a festival in Canada, like the art festival, something. So I picked up a registration for. It was this big, and I was
Wow.
like, I would never be able to open a restaurant because I like to do things my own way.
Quick,
And I
yeah.
said if I wanted to open a restaurant, it'd probably take me 10 years, and I have
Wow.
to fill out all these.
Jurisdictions
Yeah.
and
No. The
restrictions.
very make sure your alcohol is at this temperature, your teas are like. It was a lot, and I was like, I better go home. When you come home, I mean, you could pay people off and say, let this slide. Let this slide. And then,
Right.
Right. So, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
It's been good.
Thank you,
been
Dedo.
fun.
Hope to have you back.
Yes.
Guys, as you know, follow us on Instagram at yard.abroad. Keep it locked, stick and stay. Shout out to GRC, our producers. GCR.
GCR.
My bad, guys. It's GCR. Okay, GCR. Shout out to you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.